here we are for Fun with Plaques, our first one of the season, and today, who is it going to be? Let's find out. Aha, Guy Fawkes. Sure enough, Guy Fawkes, everybody's go-to process mask in the whole world.
Let's have another look at the plaque. It is a bit odd. It seems to honour Guy Fawkes' parents, Edward and Edith, more than it does Guy. Now, ordinarily, most parents would be proud as punch to have their son or daughter honoured by a plaque. It's up there with receiving a knighthood, featuring on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, or having a ship named after you. But given that their son Guy is amongst the best known terrorists of all time, Ted and Edith would probably be less keen to have such attention drawn to their rascal of a son. You can just imagine them going, "There's nothing to see here, ladies and gents. Son, what, son? Edith, quick, tell them about the girls. We've 3 lovely daughters, don't you know? Good girls. Not one of them has an interest in politics. Very poor with their church attendance. And they've never been to London, let alone Parliament."
Aldrig säga till någon. Det är det mest hemliga du någonsin har hört.
Okay, yeah, except Sally once, but, that was a treat for her 21st. And even then mainly to go to the big Zara store on Oxford Street. Is that worth the plaque?
On with Plaques!
We all know the story of Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder Plot. The historical details can bog us down, but at heart it's a traditional story of a local lad who falls out with the Queen of England over which of them knows the true God. She's much, much older, and he's a young bit of woof. A sort of Mrs. Robinson scenario, but with less sunshine and swimming pools. So it's a classic will they, won't they plotline, similar to the great love stories of all time. Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, Romeo and Juliet, Titanic's Jack and Rose, and Tony Blair and George W. Bush. Anyway, Queenie won't back down over God. So in a dramatic teen boy fashion, Guy storms off to go fight for the Queen's dreaded enemy, the King of Spain, by signing up for the 80 Years' War with Real Madrid. Which, if you think about it, is a serious commitment. No 0-hour contracts in those days. But the big plot twist is that the Queen dies before her and Guy can get it on. Step forward James. And oh no, for Guy, James is even more wrong about the true God, and continues to oppress Fawkes' Catholic mates. So Guy returns to Britain, joins up with his Yorkshire lads, and in 1605 they head to London to sort out James once and for all. This all has a real turf war feel to it, only with less drug deals, car chases and roles for women, but more polemical religious tracks. A sort of Peaky Blinders in floppy hats, with each episode droning on for several hours about the true nature of God. When Guy and the boys get to London, they somehow manage to lease the cellars under the Houses of Parliament. Just imagine the cost of that. Rather than turn the cellars into a bachelor pad, the boys fill it with 2 tons of gunpowder in order to blow up the Houses of Parliament and kill King James. The slightly illogical thinking here is that such violence and regicide will see public demand call for a second season to be commissioned, with the working title Return to Catholicism. Guy Fawkes is the explosive specialist. If it was a supergroup, this would no doubt make him the ladies' man on saxophone. Comes on at the key point in a song for a special cameo, steals the limelight and trends on Twitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Duke Silver!
Only Guy messes up his solo, fumbles with the matches, and gets caught. The band is therefore forced to split and go their separate ways to work on solo projects, but for their untimely public execution for high treason. For fun facts! Guy Fawkes is known to have met a grisly end through public execution, being hung, drawn and quartered outside London's Westminster Hall. But this is not strictly true. By good or bad luck, Fawkes fell,
No problem.
or jumped from the scaffold too soon, and instantly broke his neck and died. All the same, his corpse was still drawn and quartered, and sent to all parts of the kingdom, including his head being put on a spike on York's walls. In some ways, this completes the traditional and time-honoured migration pattern of the provincial northern lad heading to London, making a name for himself through high endeavours and explosive ambition, then coming back home to the north, and being met with much excitement, and local folk looking up to him and holding him in high regard. Guy Fawkes and his co-conspirator boy band used to drink and talk treason in the Mermaid Tavern on Cheapside in London. This was also frequented by none other than one William Shakespeare. The gunpowder plot changed the direction of the latest play Shakespeare was working on, Macbeth no less, upping the violence and menace. Guy Fawkes is not the only infamous person connected with York. Oh yes, the city has a rich history of bad boys. First up, there's Richard III, everyone's favourite and fantasist monarch, and until recently a committed car park attendant, steadfast in serving the East Midlands. Next up is Dick Turpin. Tricky Dicky, or perhaps Trigger Happy Dicky, was most notorious highwayman of the early 18th century. On his steed, Black Bess, Dick Turpin plundered from the rich as they journeyed from London to York and beyond towards Scotland. In doing so, arguably Turpin was more reliable than today's East Coast mainline service. Having made his name and fortune by inventing turpentine, Dick Turpin lost it all in the South Sea bubble economic crash of 1720, and as a result turned to crime. Stealing from the rich, but giving nothing to the poor, he missed out on the chance of becoming Robin Hood 2.0. No Hollywood film franchise, and lucrative spin-offs, and he ended up being executed at the Knavesmire in 1739. One less well-known York bad boy is Jonathan Martin. In 1829, while attending a service in York Minster, Martin was so upset by a nasty buzzing noise in the organ that how they hid in the building and at night set fire to the Minster, almost razing it to the ground. That's 3 bad boys associated with York. The 4th is perhaps the biggest bad boy of all. Oh yes, Vince Cable. The actions of Guy Fawkes and co. lives on today each year on the 5th of November, when the nation celebrates bonfires or Guy Fawkes Night. You may have heard happy memories from your grandparents about the days when they collected a penny for a guy. If so, don't believe a word of it. This practice saw Victorian and early 20th century street urchins dragging around an imprecise effigy of Guy Fawkes, the Pope, or Gladstone, or the Dad, or who knows, and asking strangers for money so that they could buy fireworks. This reminds you just how much the world has changed in a generation or two. Today, to be approached by teen ragers in hoodies with a seemingly used body bag in the boot of a stolen Ford Kia, and for them to demand your wallet because they want to buy explosive devices, is far less likely to bring a heartwarming smile to the face and a chuckle of, "Some things don't change."